The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland like a wounded animal. Snow fell so thick that seeing more than a few feet ahead was impossible. The ice planet had no name that mattered to anyone except the scientists who studied it. They called it Sector 7 Theta in their reports. To everyone else, it was just another frozen rock at the edge of space where nothing interesting ever happened. Until today. Two small figures lay in the snow, barely moving. Their skin looked like crystal, catching what little light came through the storm. Soft blue and purple colors flickered under their skin, like candles about to go out. They were twins, though anyone looking at them would need to know their species to tell. The Valthian people all looked similar to outsiders. Small bodies, thin limbs, and faces that seemed almost human but not quite. Hyun opened his eyes slowly. Everything hurt. His sister Jiwon lay next to him, her hand touching his. He could feel her pain through their connection. Since birth, they had shared thoughts and feelings. When one hurt, the other felt it too. When one was happy, both smiled. Now they were both dying. Their escape pod had crashed 3 hours ago. The metal shell lay scattered across the ice 100 feet away, smoking and broken. They had run from assassins, jumped into the first ship they could find, and barely escaped with their lives. The pod was old and damaged. It had fallen from the sky like a stone. Hyun tried to move, but his body would not listen. The cold was killing them slowly. The Valthian could not survive in freezing temperatures. Their bodies were made for warm planets, places where the sun always shone. Here the cold crept into their crystalline skin like poison, shutting down their organs one by one. Jiwon made a small sound. Her bioluminescence flickered again, dimmer than before. Hyun squeezed her hand. He wanted to tell her it would be okay, but they both knew the truth. They would die here in the snow, far from home, their bodies freezing until they became like ice sculptures. Then Hyun heard something. Footsteps. Breathing. Something was coming through the storm. Two shapes appeared out of the white. Dogs. One was large with thick gray and white fur built for cold weather. The other was smaller, brown and black, with intelligent eyes that studied everything. The dog stopped a few feet away, watching the aliens carefully. Hyun had never seen Earth dogs before. His people had only recently made contact with humans. The Valthian database said dogs were companions, loyal animals that humans kept by their side. These two looked wild, though, covered in snow and ice. The larger dog, the one with gray fur, stepped closer. He sniffed at Hyun, then at Jiwon. His tail stayed still. After a moment, he lay down next to Jiwon, pressing his warm body against her cold one. The smaller dog did the same with Hyun, curling up close and sharing his heat. Hyun felt tears freeze on his face. Even animals from another world showed more compassion than the people who had tried to kill them. The warmth from the dog helped a little, but not enough. They were still dying, just slower now. The dogs would not leave. Minutes passed. The storm grew worse. Hyun's vision started to fade. He could barely feel Jiwon's presence in his mind anymore. Their connection was breaking. That meant the end was very close. Through the howling wind, another sound came. Heavier footsteps. A figure appeared, tall and broad, wrapped in a thick coat designed for extreme cold. The figure stopped when they saw the scene. Two dying aliens. Two dogs refusing to leave them. Blood in the snow. The figure moved closer and pulled back their hood. A human face appeared, male with dark eyes and short black hair covered in frost. His face was weathered from years in harsh conditions. He stared at the aliens for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Hyun tried to speak but could not. His voice was gone. All he could do was look at the human with desperate eyes. "Please help us. Do not let us die here alone." The human knelt down in the snow. He pulled off a glove and touched Jiwon's face gently, checking for vital signs. Then he checked Hyun. His expression changed. His jaw tightened. He looked at the dogs, who stared back at him with serious faces. "You found them, did you?" the human said to the dogs. His voice was rough but calm. "Good boys. You did good." The human stood up and looked around at the storm. He seemed to be thinking, calculating something. Hyun watched him and wondered what would happen next. Most species in the galaxy would walk away. Helping strangers was expensive, dangerous, and complicated. It made no logical sense, especially when those strangers were dying anyway. The human looked down at them again. He studied their crystalline skin, their failing bioluminescence, their shallow breathing. Then he said something that Hyun would never forget. "Not on my watch. Not today." The human moved fast after that. He scooped up Jiwon with surprising gentleness, cradling her like something precious. She was so light that he barely seemed to notice her weight. Then he looked at the larger dog. Baram, stay with him. Keep him warm. I will come back. The dog called Baram pressed closer to Hyun. The human disappeared into the storm with Jiwon. Hyun panicked. Where was he taking her? What was happening? But through their fading connection, he felt something unexpected from his sister. Not fear, not pain, warmth, safety. Minutes later, the human returned. This time he picked up Hyun the same way, careful not to hurt him. The smaller dog ran alongside as they moved through the storm. Hyun could barely keep his eyes open. The cold had gone so deep into his body that he felt numb everywhere, but the human kept walking. His steps were steady and sure, even in the blizzard. He held Hyun close to his chest, sharing his body heat through the thick coat. Behind them, both dogs followed faithfully, fighting through snow that came up to their shoulders. Hyun did not know where they were going. He did not know who this human was. He did not know if they would survive. But for the first time since the crash, he felt something besides despair. Hope. The human carried him into the unknown, and somehow, that felt like the first step toward living instead of dying. The outpost appeared through the storm like a metal island in a sea of white. It was small, just 3 connected buildings pressed low against the ice to avoid the worst winds. Solar panels covered in snow sat on the roof, barely generating any power. One window glowed with dim yellow light. This was home to only one person for 6 months at a time. A research station at the edge of nowhere. The human kicked open the door and brought Hyun inside. Heat hit them immediately. It was not warm by human standards, maybe 60 degrees, but to Hyun it felt like fire on his frozen skin. He gasped. Pain shot through his body as his crystalline structure tried to adjust to the temperature change too quickly. Easy, easy, the human said. He set Hyun down on a table next to where Jiwon already lay. Too much heat too fast will crack your skin. I know that much at least. Hyun looked at his sister. Her bioluminescence was almost completely dark now. Only the faintest purple glow remained under her skin. He reached for her hand and found it. Their connection was still there, barely, like a thread about to snap. The 2 dogs shook snow from their fur and immediately took positions on the floor near the table. They were alert, watching everything the human did with careful eyes. The human pulled off his coat and moved quickly around the room. He was not young, maybe 40 or 45 years old in human terms. His name tag said D in simple letters. He wore practical clothes, all function and no style, a scientist who lived alone and did not care about appearance. Day went to a panel on the wall and started pressing buttons. Computer access xenobiology database. Species Valthine. Medical emergency protocols. A flat computerized voice responded. Limited data available. Valthine physiology poorly documented. Recommend contact with Galactic Medical Authority. Communications are down because of the storm, Day said, frustration clear in his voice. Give me what you have. The computer displayed information on a screen. Day read quickly, his eyes moving fast across the text. Hyun watched him and tried to understand what was happening. Why was this human helping them? What did he want in return? Core temperature regulation critical, Day muttered, reading. Crystalline structure sensitive to thermal shock. Neural link between twins. Damn. If one dies, the other follows within minutes. He looked at Hyun and Jiwon with new understanding. You're connected. Really connected. Hyun managed to make a small nod. Yes. We are one, split into 2 bodies. Always together. Always sharing. Day rubbed his face with both hands. He looked tired, like he had not slept well in weeks. Maybe months. Living alone in this frozen place probably did that to a person. But his hands were steady when he reached for medical equipment stored in metal cabinets. Okay, Day said, more to himself than anyone else. First priority is raising core temperature without causing thermal shock. Second is checking for internal injuries from the crash. Third is, he paused. Third is hoping I do not kill you both by accident because I have never worked on Valthine patients before, and everything I know could fit on 1 page. He pulled out devices that Hyun did not recognize. Human medical technology was different from what the Valthine used. Cruder in some ways, but adaptable. Humans were good at improvising, at making things work even when they should not. Day placed sensors on both twins, watching numbers appear on his screens. Heart rate, blood pressure, temperature. The numbers were all wrong, all too low. Critical levels, You should be dead already, Day said quietly. What kept you alive out there? The larger dog, Baram, made a small sound. Day looked at him and smiled slightly. Yeah, you did you not, good boy? Very good boy. He reached down and scratched behind Baram's ears. Then Day got to work. He moved with purpose, setting up warming blankets that generated heat slowly and carefully. He adjusted the room temperature up degree by degree, watching the twins for any sign of thermal stress. He ran scanners over their bodies, checking for broken bones and internal bleeding. Hyun felt the warmth spreading through his body. It hurt, everything hurt, but it was better than the numbness of freezing to death. Beside him, Ji-won stirred slightly. Her bioluminescence flickered a tiny bit brighter. That is good, Day said, noticing. You are responding. Keep responding. Hours passed. Dee never stopped moving. He mixed chemicals according to what the computer told him, creating solutions that might help stabilize Valthene biology. He injected nutrients into their bloodstream through careful IV drips. He monitored every number on every screen like his own life depended on it. The smaller dog, Hanul, rested his head on Day's foot at one point. Day looked down and smiled again, just a little. I know, buddy. I know you are worried. Me too. At one point, Hyun's heart stopped. Alarms screamed from the medical equipment. Immediately, Ji-won's heart began to fail too. Their connection was pulling them both toward death. Day moved faster than Hyun thought possible. He grabbed a device and placed it on Hyun's chest. Electricity shocked through Hyun's body. Once, twice, 3 times. His heart started again, weak but beating. Ji-won's heart stabilized a moment later. Day stood there, breathing hard, his hands shaking slightly. Not today, he said again, quieter. You do not die today. Hyun understood then. This human had decided they would live. It was not a hope or a wish. It was a decision. A fact that Day was going to make real through pure stubbornness and will. It did not matter that the odds were impossible. It did not matter that he had never done this before. It did not matter that logic said to give up. Humans did not always listen to logic. More hours passed. The storm outside grew worse. Wind hammered against the building like fists. Snow piled higher against the windows. But inside, Day kept working. He barely stopped to rest. When he drank water, he did it while reading medical data. When he ate a quick meal, his eyes never left the monitors. The dogs stayed close the whole time. Sometimes they slept. Sometimes they watched, but they never left the room. It was like they understood how serious this was. How close to the edge of death everyone stood. Finally, after what felt like forever, Hyun felt something change. The terrible cold that had been killing him from the inside began to fade. His body temperature rose into safer ranges. His heart beat stronger. His crystalline skin started to glow again, faint but growing. Ji-won stirred. Her eyes opened slightly. She looked at Hyun, and through their connection he felt her relief, her confusion, her gratitude. Day noticed they were both awake. He came over and checked their vitals one more time. Then he let out a long breath and sat down hard in a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. You are going to make it, he said. His voice was rough with tiredness. I think maybe, probably. He laughed a little, a sound with no humor in it. I just performed alien emergency medicine with equipment meant for humans and a database with 12 paragraphs of information. This is either the best work I have ever done or the luckiest. Hyun tried to speak. His voice came out as a whisper, but it worked. Why? Day looked at him for a long moment. Why did I help you? Hyun nodded slightly. Yes, why? We are strangers. We are not your species. We have nothing to give you. Why risk so much for us? Day's answer was simple. Because you needed help. Because those 2 dogs told me to. He looked at Baram and Hanul. And because where I come from, we do not leave people to die in the snow. Not if we can do something about it. It was such a simple answer, such a human answer, and in that moment, Hyun began to understand that humanity was very different from every other species he had ever known. The first full day at the outpost passed slowly. Hyun and Ji-won drifted in and out of consciousness, their bodies fighting to heal from the extreme trauma. Every time Hyun woke up, he saw the same things. The metal ceiling of the outpost, medical equipment humming nearby, Baram and Hanul sleeping on the floor, and Day always working, always watching their vital signs. Day had converted the storage room into a medical bay. It was not designed for this. Metal shelves that once held scientific equipment now held medicine and supplies. A space heater ran constantly in the corner, keeping the temperature stable. Warming blankets covered both twins, generating gentle heat that their bodies desperately needed. On the second morning, Hyun woke up feeling different. Better. His bioluminescence glowed steady blue under his skin, not bright but consistent. The terrible cold was gone from his core. He could move his fingers. He could think clearly. Jiwon was already awake. She lay on her side looking at him. Through their connection, he felt her relief, her wonder that they were both still alive. "Hyun," she whispered. Her voice was weak but real. "Jiwon," he whispered back. Just saying her name made him feel stronger. Dae heard them talking. He came over quickly, checking their monitors with practiced efficiency. "Good morning. How do you feel?" Hyun thought about the question. How did he feel? "Alive," he said simply. "We feel alive." Dae smiled. It was the first real smile Hyun had seen on his face. "That is the best answer I could hope for." He helped them sit up slowly, supporting their backs with pillows. "Take it easy. Your bodies have been through severe trauma. You need time to recover." Jiwon looked around the room with curious eyes. "Where are we?" "Research Outpost Theta 7, Dae said. "I study ice formations and climate patterns. Very boring work usually. You two are the most exciting thing that has happened here in 8 months." He poured water into 2 cups and handed them over. "Drink slowly. Your systems need to rehydrate." The water tasted strange but good. Hyun drank carefully, feeling the liquid help his dry throat. Beside him, Jiwon did the same. "The dogs," Hyun said, looking at Baram and Hanul. "They saved us." "They did," Dae agreed. He reached down and petted both dogs. "These two wander around the outpost area during the day. They found you before I did. Probably saved your lives by keeping you warm until I got there." He looked at the twins seriously. "What happened to you? Why were you out in that storm?" Hyun and Jiwon exchanged glances. Through their connection, they decided together how much to say. Finally, Hyun spoke. "We are diplomats." "We're diplomats. My sister and I served our people in negotiations with other species." He paused, remembering. There was a faction that disagreed with our work. They wanted war instead of peace. They sent assassins. "We ran," Jiwon continued. "Found an old escape pod. Launched without proper coordinates. The pod was damaged. It brought us here and crashed." Dae listened carefully. His expression grew serious. "Are these assassins still looking for you?" "Probably," Hyun admitted. "But they will not find us here. This planet is too remote, too unimportant." "Good," Dae said. "Because communications are still down from the storm. Even if I wanted to call for help, I cannot. We are completely isolated for at least 2 more days." The thought should have been frightening, but somehow Hyun felt safe here. This human, this stranger, had saved their lives. He had worked for hours to keep them alive. He asked for nothing in return. It went against everything Hyun knew about how most species operated. "Why did you help us?" Jiwon asked the question that had been bothering both twins. "Your species barely knows ours. We had nothing to offer you. We were dying anyway. Most would have left us." Dae sat down in his chair. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Where I come from on Earth, we have a saying. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It means treat people the way you want to be treated." He looked at the twins. "If I was dying in the snow, I would want someone to help me. So I helped you. It is that simple." "It is not simple at all," Hyun said softly. "That kind of thinking is rare in the galaxy. Most species calculate value. Cost versus benefit. Risk versus reward. Helping strangers has no logical benefit." "Maybe not," Dae said. "But humans do not always do what is logical. We do what feels right, and leaving you to die felt very, very wrong." Baram came over and put his head on Dae's lap. Dae scratched behind his ears absently. "Besides, these two would never forgive me if I left you there. Dogs have a strong sense of right and wrong. They expected me to help, so I did." Hanul walked over to the twins and sniffed at them carefully. Then he licked Jiwon's hand. She laughed a little, surprised by the gesture. The dog's tail wagged once. "He likes you," Dae said. "That is a good sign. Hanul is very picky about people." Over the next hours, they talked more. Dae asked questions about Valthene biology, trying to understand better how to care for them. The twins explained what they could, teaching him about their crystalline structure, their neural connection, their sensitivity to temperature. In return, Dae told them about Earth, about mountains and oceans, about cities full of billions of people, about dogs and how humans had lived alongside them for thousands of years. About the research he did here, studying how ice formed in extreme conditions. It is lonely work, Day admitted at one point. 6 months at a time, completely alone except for Baram and Hanul. They are technically stray dogs, but they adopted me when I arrived. Best companions I could ask for. Why do you stay? Hyun asked. Why choose isolation? Day's expression changed. Something sad crossed his face. Because sometimes being alone is easier than being around people who remind you of what you lost. He did not explain further, and the twins did not ask. Everyone had pain in their past. Even humans. By afternoon, both twins could stand with help. Their legs were weak, but they worked. Day helped them walk around the room slowly, rebuilding their strength. The dogs walked alongside them, as if making sure they did not fall. You are recovering faster than I expected, Day said, watching them carefully. Your species must have strong regenerative abilities. We do, Ji-won said, as long as our core temperature stays stable. The cold was killing us because it shut down our regeneration. Now that we are warm, our bodies can heal. That evening, Day made food for everyone, simple meals for the humans and dogs. For the twins, he had created a nutrient solution based on information from his limited database. It was not perfect, but it worked. They sat together in the main room of the outpost. A small table, 4 beings from 2 different worlds. 2 dogs who understood more than anyone gave them credit for. Outside, the storm had finally stopped. Stars appeared in the dark sky, beautiful and cold. Thank you, Hyun said suddenly. For everything. For not leaving us. For saving our lives. For treating us like people worth saving. Dee looked at him across the table. You are worth saving. All life is worth saving if you have the ability to do something about it. Ji-won felt tears in her eyes. In their culture, such selfless compassion was considered foolish, impractical, a weakness that enemies could exploit. But sitting here alive because of this human's weakness, she understood that maybe her people had it wrong. Maybe compassion was not weakness at all. Maybe it was the strongest thing in the universe. Baram barked once, breaking the serious moment. Everyone laughed. The dog wanted more food, unconcerned with philosophy or gratitude. Just a simple creature with simple needs. All right, Day said, giving him a treat. You earned it, big guy. That night, the twins slept peacefully for the first time since their escape. The outpost was warm. They were safe. Their bodies were healing. And somewhere in the room, a human sat watch, making sure nothing went wrong, refusing to let death claim the 2 strangers he had pulled from the snow. Because that was what humans did. They helped. Even when it made no sense. Even when it cost them. Even when the whole galaxy said to look the other way. They helped anyway. On the 3rd day, something changed. Hyun woke up and immediately knew something was wrong. Through his connection with Ji-won, he felt pain. Sharp, spreading pain that felt like cracks forming in glass. He sat up quickly. Ji-won? His sister was curled up on her side, trembling. Her bioluminescence flickered erratically, flashing between colors that should not appear. Red. Dark purple. Almost black in places. Her crystalline skin showed thin lines spreading across her arms and chest. Cracks. Day! Hyun shouted. His voice was panicked, breaking. Dai was there in seconds. He must have been nearby, watching over them as always. He took one look at Ji-won and his expression went serious. What happened? She was fine last night. I do not know, Hyun said. He held his sister's hand. Through their connection, he felt everything she felt. The pain was getting worse. Something was very wrong inside her body. Something is breaking. Her structure is failing. Day ran his scanners over Ji-won. The readings made him curse under his breath. Infection. Inside her crystalline matrix. It is spreading. He pulled up information on his computer screen, reading fast. Damn it. Your species can develop internal infections when the crystal structure is damaged. From the crash, probably. It has been growing slowly, and now it is critical. Can you fix it? Hyun asked desperately. Day did not answer right away. His silence was terrifying. He kept reading, kept searching through the limited database. His jaw was tight. His hands moved fast across the controls. Finally, he spoke. There is a procedure. It is incredibly dangerous. I would need to temporarily sever your neural connection, treat Jiwon's infection separately, then reconnect you. He looked at both twins. The database says the success rate is 12%, even among expert Valthine surgeons. 12%. The number hit Hyun like a physical blow. And if you do nothing? She dies within hours. The infection will spread through her entire crystalline structure until it shatters. Dae's voice was gentle but honest. And when she dies, you die too. The neural connection will pull you both into death. Hyun felt cold despite the warm room. He looked at his sister. Jiwon's eyes were open, looking at him. Through their connection, he felt her fear, her pain, her resignation. "Hyun," she whispered, "do not let him try. 12% is nothing. It will fail. I do not want to die alone, separated from you." "You will not die," Hyun said fiercely. "Neither of us will." "If we must die, let us die together," Jiwon said. Tears ran down her face. "That is better than being cut apart, better than one of us surviving alone. We have always been together. Let us stay together until the end." Hyun understood her fear. The thought of being separated, even temporarily, was terrifying. Since birth, they had never been apart. Their minds were linked. Their souls were connected. To cut that connection, even to save her life, felt like a kind of death anyway. But the thought of giving up, of letting her die without fighting, felt even worse. Dae watched them quietly. He did not push, did not pressure, just waited for them to decide. Baram and Hanul sat nearby, sensing the serious mood. Both dogs were still, their eyes moving between the humans and aliens. "There has to be another way," Hyun said desperately. "Some other treatment, something less dangerous." "I have been looking," Dae said. "There is nothing. The infection is too deep, too widespread. It has to be removed surgically, and that requires disconnecting you first. Otherwise, any trauma to her body would damage you too." He paused. "I am sorry. I wish I had better options." Hyun held his sister's hand tighter. Through their connection, they shared everything. Memories of childhood, growing up together, learning together, working as diplomats, always as a team. Every joy, every sorrow felt by both of them equally. The idea of losing that connection, even for a short time, was almost too painful to consider. But the idea of losing her forever was worse. "Do it," Hyun said quietly. "No." Jiwon tried to pull her hand away. "No, Hyun, please. I would rather die together than risk this." Hyun looked at his sister, really looked at her. "I would rather risk everything than give up. We survived the assassins. We survived the crash. We survived freezing to death in the snow. We did not come this far just to surrender now. The odds, 12% is better than 0, Hyun said firmly. And we have something those other patients did not have." He looked at Dae. "We have a human who refuses to let people die, who thinks compassion is more important than logic, who does impossible things because he decides they should be possible." Dae's expression shifted. Something like surprise crossed his face, then determination. "I will need time to prepare, to study the procedure, to make sure I understand every step." He looked at Jiwon. "I cannot promise success, but I promise I will try with everything I have." Jiwon looked between her brother and the human. Slowly, reluctantly, she nodded. "All right, try." The next hours were tense. Dae worked at his computer reading everything available about the procedure. He ran simulations using the outpost's limited processing power. He gathered every piece of medical equipment that might help. He moved with focused intensity, preparing for the most difficult thing he had ever attempted. Hyun stayed with Jiwon the whole time. They talked quietly, sharing memories through their connection, remembering good times, saying things that needed to be said, just in case these were their last hours together. "I am scared," Jiwon admitted. "Me too," Hyun said. But we face it together. Even if we are separated for a while, we are still together. Always. Dai came over several times to check on Jiwon's condition. The infection was spreading faster now. The cracks in her crystalline skin grew longer, deeper. Her bioluminescence dimmed further. Time was running out. I am ready, Dai finally said. His voice was steady, but Hyun could see the tension in his shoulders, the concern in his eyes. Or as ready as I will ever be. He explained the procedure step by step. First, he would use a specialized device to temporarily interrupt the neural connection. This would put Hyun into a kind of coma while Jiwon remained conscious. Then he would perform surgery on Jiwon, removing the infected parts of her crystalline structure and sealing the damage. Finally, he would reconnect them, hoping both survived the shock. Once I start, I cannot stop, Dai warned. If anything goes wrong in the middle, I will have to keep going and hope I can fix it. Do you both understand? Both twins nodded. All right then. Dai took a deep breath. Let us do the impossible. He positioned them on separate tables, close enough to reach each other, but with room for him to work. He attached monitoring equipment to both. Baram and Hanel watched from the corner, silent witnesses to what was about to happen. Dai placed the neural interruption device on both twins' heads. This will hurt, he said honestly. I am sorry. Do it, Hyun said. Dai activated the device. Immediately, pain shot through Hyun's skull. It felt like something fundamental was being torn apart. His connection to Jiwon, the thing that had defined his entire life, began to fray and break. Through the fading connection, he felt Jiwon scream. Felt her terror. Felt her reaching for him even as the distance between their minds grew larger. Then nothing. Silence. Emptiness where his sister had always been. Hyun's world went dark as his mind shut down, unable to handle the loss. His last thought before unconsciousness took him was a desperate prayer to whoever might listen. Let her live, please. Let her live. And then he was gone, drifting in darkness alone for the first time in his life. Dai stood between the two tables looking at his patients. Hyun lay completely still, his bioluminescence barely visible. He was alive but unconscious, his mind shut down from the loss of his twin connection. On the other table, Jiwon was awake but trembling. Her eyes were wide with fear. I can feel him, she whispered. But it is like he is very far away. Behind a wall. I cannot reach him. He is alive, Dai assured her. His vitals are stable. The coma is temporary, a protective response to the separation. He moved to her side and began preparing his surgical equipment. Now I need you to stay as still as possible. This is going to be painful, but I cannot use anesthesia. Your species reacts unpredictably to human drugs. Jiwon nodded. Tears ran down her face. I understand. Dai had spent hours studying the limited information available about Valthene anatomy. Their crystalline structure was unlike anything on Earth. Part biology, part mineral, somehow alive and thinking. The infection had spread through the internal crystal matrix like rot through wood, weakening everything. He picked up a tool designed for precision cutting. Originally meant for ice core samples, he had modified it for surgery. This will remove the infected sections. Then I will seal the damage with a compound I created from your own crystalline material and some medical adhesives. He looked at her seriously. Ready? No, Jiwon said honestly. But do it anyway. Dai made the first incision. Jiwon gasped. Her bioluminescence flashed bright red with pain. Dai worked carefully, removing thin layers of infected crystal. The material came away in his hands, dark and crumbling, clearly diseased. Talk to me, Dai said as he worked. Keep your mind focused on something besides the pain. Jiwon tried to speak through gritted teeth. What should I say? Tell me about your home, Dai suggested. Your planet. What is it like? Jiwon closed her eyes. It is beautiful, warm. The sun shines on crystal cities that glow with a million colors. We have gardens where crystal flowers grow, singing when the wind touches them. She gasped again as Dai cut deeper. Music is everywhere. We can hear it through our skin, feel it in our bones. Keep going, Dai encouraged. His hand stayed steady despite the delicate work. Hyun and I grew up near the capital, Jiwon continued. Her voice shook. We would explore the crystal caves beneath the city, places where light bounced forever, creating illusions and beauty. We were never alone there. Always together, always connected. Day removed another section of infected crystal. The cracks in her skin were spreading even as he worked. He had to move faster. What made you become diplomats? We wanted to help our people, G1 said. The Valthine are old. We have seen many wars, many conflicts. We thought if we could help other species understand each other, maybe there would be less fighting, less death, she laughed bitterly. But some people do not want peace. They want power. I know the type, Day said. Every species has them. He worked for another hour. His back ached from standing hunched over. His eyes burned from focusing so carefully, but he did not stop. Could not stop. Jiwan's life depended on every cut being precise, every movement being perfect. Bahram and Hanul had not moved from their corner. They watched everything with serious eyes. Once, when Jiwan cried out in pain, Bahram whined softly. Day glanced at him. I know, boy. I am hurrying. Finally, all the infected crystal was removed. Jiwan's chest and arms showed gaps now, places where material had been cut away. Through those gaps, Day could see the inner structure that kept her alive. It pulsed with faint light, fragile and vulnerable. Now comes the hard part, Day said. He picked up the sealing compound he had created. It looked like liquid crystal, glowing softly blue. I am going to rebuild what I removed. This compound should bond with your natural structure and harden into healthy crystal. Should? Jiwan asked weakly. It works in theory, Day admitted. We are about to test it in practice. He applied the compound carefully, filling the gaps in her crystalline structure. The material flowed like water, finding every crack and crevice. As it settled, it began to harden, taking on the same structure as the surrounding healthy crystal. Jiwan's eyes went wide. I can feel it. It is working. It is bonding. Good, Day said. Relief flooded through him. Very good. Stay still while it sets. Minutes passed. The compound hardened fully, becoming indistinguishable from Jiwan's natural crystal. The cracks in her skin stopped spreading. Her bioluminescence began to glow stronger, shifting from dark purple back to healthy blue. Day ran his scanners over her. The readings were better. Much better. The infection was gone. The structure was stable. She was healing. Phase 1 complete, Day said. He allowed himself a small smile. You are going to live. Jiwan started crying. Not from pain this time, but from relief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do not thank me yet, Day said. Now comes the most dangerous part. Reconnecting you with Hyun. He moved to check on Hyun. The brother was still unconscious, his body maintaining basic functions but nothing more. Without his twin connection, he was like a machine on standby, waiting for the missing piece that made him whole. The reconnection has to be perfect, Day explained. He was talking to himself as much as to Jiwan. If I do it wrong, I could damage both your minds. Cause permanent brain damage. Or worse. What is worse than brain damage? Jiwan asked. Day did not answer. They both knew. Death was worse. Or something like death. Two minds connected but broken, trapped between life and nothing. He set up the neural connection device again. His hands trembled slightly. This was it. Everything came down to this moment. He had spent hours studying the procedure, running simulations, preparing. But theory and practice were different things. I am scared, Jiwan said softly. Me too, Day admitted. It was the first time he had said it out loud. But fear means we are alive, means we care about what happens next. He positioned the device carefully. Ready? Ready. Day activated the reconnection sequence. Energy flowed through the device, reaching into both twins' minds, searching for the severed connection. On his monitors, Day watched neural patterns, looking for the exact moment when the minds would touch again. Jiwan gasped. I feel him. He is there. He is reaching for me. Guide him back, Day said. Use your mind. Pull him toward you. Jiwan closed her eyes. Her bioluminescence pulsed in waves, faster and faster. On the other table, Hyun's body began to glow as well, responding to his sister's call. The neural patterns on Day's screen moved closer together, almost touching, almost reconnecting. Then something went wrong. The patterns spiked wildly. Both twins convulsed. Alarms screamed from the medical equipment. No, Day muttered. He adjusted the device, trying to stabilize the connection. His heart pounded. This was it. The critical moment. Success or failure. The neural patterns spiked again, even more violently. Day made a decision. He pushed the device to maximum power, forcing the connection through whatever barrier was blocking it. It was dangerous, possibly fatal, but doing nothing would definitely kill them both. The device hummed loudly. Energy crackled. Both twins arched their backs, their bodies rigid with pain. Then suddenly the patterns merged. Smoothly. Perfectly. Like two rivers flowing together into one. Both twins gasped simultaneously. Their eyes opened. They looked at each other across the space between tables.
Ji-won?
Hyun whispered. Hyun, she replied, her voice full of joy and relief. Their bioluminescence blazed brighter than Day had ever seen, lighting up the entire room with blue and purple light. The connection was restored. Not just restored, stronger than before. Day collapsed into his chair. 7 hours of surgery. 7 hours of the most stressful work in his entire life. His hands shook. His vision blurred with exhaustion. But they were alive. Both of them. Against impossible odds, they had survived. The room was silent except for the quiet hum of medical equipment. Day sat in his chair, breathing hard, his whole body shaking from exhaustion and relief. Bahram and Hanel finally moved from their corner, walking over to check on everyone. Bahram put his head on Day's lap. Hanel went to the twins, sniffing them carefully before his tail wagged once. Approval. Hyun and Ji-won lay on their tables, hands reaching across the space between them, fingers touching. Their bioluminescence had settled into a steady, healthy glow. Through their restored connection, they shared everything. The fear they had felt, the pain of separation, the incredible joy of being reunited. How do you feel? Day asked after several minutes. His voice was rough with tiredness. Whole, Hyun said simply. Like I was broken and now I'm fixed. Better than before, Ji-won added. She looked at the sealed areas on her arms and chest. The new crystal had bonded perfectly, already matching the color and texture of her natural structure. The infection is gone. I can feel it. My body is healing properly now. Day nodded. He ran one more set of scans, checking everything. Heart rate's normal. Neural patterns stable. Body temperature good. No signs of rejection or complications. Against all odds, the procedure had worked. Not just worked, succeeded better than he dared hope. You should rest, Day said. Both of you. Your bodies need time to finish healing. But neither twin looked tired. They looked energized, glowing brighter by the minute. What you did, Hyun said, staring at Day. It should have been impossible. The success rate was 12%, Ji-won added. 12% even for expert surgeons of our own species. You are human. You had never performed this surgery before. You had limited information and primitive equipment. She paused. How did you succeed? Day was quiet for a moment. He petted Bahram absently, thinking, honestly, I do not know. Luck, maybe. Determination. Refusing to accept failure as an option. He looked at them. Or maybe your species' statistics are wrong. Maybe 12% is the success rate when surgeons do not care enough about their patients. When they treat it as just another procedure. What do you mean? Hyun asked. Every cut I made, I was thinking about you, Day explained. Not as specimens or patients, but as people. People who deserved to live. People who had already survived so much. I could not let you die after everything you went through. He smiled slightly. Maybe that made the difference. Maybe caring actually matters more than technique. The twins looked at each other, communicating silently through their connection. Then Ji-won spoke. In our culture, what you just described would be considered a weakness. Emotional attachment to patients reduces logical thinking, makes surgeons hesitate or make poor decisions. Maybe, Day said, but I think your culture is wrong about that. I think caring makes you try harder, makes you see solutions that cold logic would miss, makes impossible things possible because you refuse to give up. Hyun sat up slowly. His body was still weak but recovering quickly. You did not just save our lives. You showed us something we did not know existed. True compassion, the kind that risks everything for strangers, the kind that does impossible things because it is the right thing to do. Humans do not have a monopoly on compassion, Day said. I am sure your people have it too. Not like this, Ji-won said. She also sat up, moving carefully. We have duty. We have logic. We have contracts and obligations. But what you showed us, helping strangers for no reward, risking failure for people you just met, refusing to let us die simply because we deserve to live. That is rare. Very rare. Day looked uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what anyone should do. But most would not, Hyun said. That is the point. Most species would have calculated the risk and walked away. You calculated the risk and tried anyway. Barum barked once, breaking the serious mood. Everyone looked at him. The dog stared at Day expectantly, then looked at his food bowl across the room. The message was clear. Philosophy was fine, but he was hungry. Day laughed. It was a good sound, full of genuine amusement. All right, buddy. You are right. Time to take care of everyone. He stood up, his legs wobbly from sitting so long. Food for everyone, real food. You two need nutrients to finish healing. Over the next hour, Dee prepared meals. Simple food for himself and the dogs. The nutrient solution for the twins, but better than before. He had learned more about their nutritional needs and adjusted the formula. They ate together in the main room. The storm outside had completely cleared. Through the windows, they could see stars scattered across the black sky. Beautiful and cold and distant. Communications should be back online soon, Day said between bites. When they are, we can contact your people. Let them know you are alive and safe. The twins exchanged glances. We are not sure that is wise, Hyun said carefully. The assassins who tried to kill us, they may be monitoring communications. If they learn we are alive and where we are, they would come here, Day finished. He thought about it. Then we do not tell them exactly where you are. We contact someone you trust, someone who can help. There is someone, Ji-won said. A friend in the diplomatic corps. Minho. He would help us without telling anyone else. Then we will contact him, Day said. But not tonight. Tonight everyone rests. Tomorrow we figure out the next steps. But Hyun was not ready to rest yet. He looked at Day seriously. You need to understand what you have done. Not just for us personally, but what this means. What do you mean? Day asked. Humanity is new to the galactic community, Hyun explained. Most species are watching you, trying to understand what kind of people you are, trying to decide if you are dangerous or useful or trustworthy. He leaned forward. Stories spread fast in the galaxy. What happened here? A human saving 2 dying aliens with impossible surgery, asking nothing in return. That story will spread. It will change how people see your species. I do not want to be famous, Day said quickly. I just wanted to help. We know, Ji-won said gently. But you cannot control what happens next. When we return to our people, they will ask what happened. We will tell them the truth. That a human saved us. That a human showed compassion beyond logic. That a human did the unthinkable and succeeded. Day looked out the window at the stars. Will that be good or bad for humanity? Good, Hyun said with certainty. Very good. The galaxy needs to know that humans have something special. Not advanced weapons or technology. Something better. The ability to care about strangers. The stubborn refusal to let people die when you can help. Other species have that too, Day protested. Some do, Ji-won agreed. But not like this. Not with this intensity. Not with this. She searched for the right word. This defiant hope. You humans seem to believe that impossible things can become possible if you just try hard enough and care enough. And you were right, Hyun added. At least this time you were right. Day did not know what to say to that. He had just done what felt necessary. What felt right. The idea that it would affect how the entire galaxy viewed humanity seemed overwhelming. Hanel came over and rested his head on Day's foot. The dog looked up at him with knowing eyes. Day smiled and scratched behind his ears. What do you think, buddy? Did we do good? Hanel's tail wagged. That was answer enough. Later that night, Day made beds for the twins in the storage room. They were comfortable now, warm and healing. Before leaving them to rest, he checked their vitals one more time. Everything looked perfect. Thank you, Ji-won said sleepily. For everything. Sleep well, Day replied. Tomorrow is a new day. He left them and walked to his own small room. Barum and Haniul followed, settling in their usual spots on the floor. Day lay down on his bed, exhausted beyond words. He had come to this frozen planet to be alone, to avoid people and complications and emotions, to study ice formations and live a simple, quiet life. Instead, he had saved 2 alien diplomats with impossible surgery, had proven that compassion could overcome terrible odds. had apparently changed how the galaxy might view all of humanity. Life, Day thought as sleep took him, was very strange sometimes, but as he drifted off, he felt something he had not felt in years. Pride. Not in himself necessarily, but in what people, any species, could accomplish when they refused to give up on each other. The impossible was only impossible until someone did it anyway. Morning came quietly to the outpost. Day woke to find both dogs staring at him, waiting patiently for breakfast. He smiled and got up, his body sore from yesterday's long surgery, but his mind clear. The twins were alive. Against impossible odds, they had all survived. He checked on Hyun and Jiwon first. Both were awake, sitting up and talking quietly through their connection. Their bioluminescence was bright and healthy, no signs of the infection or trauma that had nearly killed them. "Good morning," Day said. "How do you feel?" "Strong," Hyun answered. His crystalline skin showed no cracks, no damage. "Better than I have felt since before the crash." "Me too," Jiwon agreed. She held up her arms, examining where Day had performed surgery. "The sealed areas have fully bonded. I cannot even tell where the damaged sections were." Day ran his medical scans, checking everything carefully. Heart rate's excellent. Neural connections stable and strong. Body temperature perfect. Complete recovery. "You healed fast," Day observed. "Much faster than I expected." "Our regeneration works quickly when we are properly cared for," Hyun explained. "And when we are not dying from cold or infection." He smiled. "You did more than save our lives. You gave our bodies what they needed to save themselves." After breakfast, Day checked the communications equipment. "System is back online. We can send messages now." The twins looked at each other, having one of their silent conversations. Finally, Jiwon nodded. "Contact Minho, use these coordinates." She recited a string of numbers that Day entered carefully. The message was simple. 2 words in the Valthian language, transmitted on a secure channel. "We survived." Within an hour, a response came back. Minho, whoever he was, sounded shocked and relieved. He promised to send a ship immediately, but quietly. No official channels, no announcements. Just a rescue for 2 friends. "He will be here tomorrow," Hyun translated. "He is bringing medical supplies and protection in case the assassin somehow tracked us." Day nodded. "Good, until then you are safe here." The day passed peacefully. The twins walked around the outpost, rebuilding their strength. Baram and Hanul stayed close, as if protecting them. Day returned to his work, checking equipment and reviewing data. Normal things. Boring things. It felt good after the chaos and fear of the past days. That evening, they sat together one last time. The small group that had survived against impossible odds. Day cooked a real meal, using supplies he usually saved for special occasions. The twins ate their nutrient solution but seemed to enjoy just being part of the shared meal. "What will you do now?" Day asked. "After you return to your people?" Hyun and Jiwon exchanged glances. "We will continue our work as diplomats," Hyun said. "But things will be different now. We understand more than we did before. We understand that compassion is not weakness," Jiwon continued. "That helping others, even at great cost, can create something stronger than any weapon or technology." She looked at Day. "We will tell our people about you, about what humans are capable of." "Just tell them I helped some people who needed help," Day said. "Nothing more complicated than that." "But it is more complicated," Hyun insisted. "You did not just help. You succeeded at something that should have been impossible. You performed surgery on a species you barely understood, with equipment not designed for the task, and you achieved a better result than expert surgeons of our own species achieve." He leaned forward. "Do you understand what that means? It means human adaptability and determination are greater than most species realize. It means when humans care about something, they become capable of extraordinary things." Dai was quiet. He had never thought about it that way. To him, he had just done what needed doing. But maybe that was the point. Maybe doing what needed doing, regardless of difficulty or odds, was the special thing Hyun was talking about. "There is something else," Jiwon said softly. "The dogs, Baram and Hanul, they found us first. They stayed with us in the freezing snow, sharing their warmth. They never left our sides during the surgery." She looked at the 2 dogs who lay peacefully nearby. "That kind of loyalty, that instinct to help others even across species, it says something about humans too. That you live alongside beings who share your values of compassion and loyalty. Humans and dogs have been together for thousands of years, Dai said. They are part of us in a way. They make us better. Yes, Hyun agreed, they do. And that partnership, that friendship between species, it is something rare in the galaxy. Most species use animals as tools or resources. You treat them as companions, as family. Barham's ears perked up at the attention. He walked over and put his head on Jiwon's lap. She scratched behind his ears, laughing softly.
He is teaching me how to do this correctly.
Through our connection, Hyun can feel what I feel when I pet him. It is pleasant, calming. Dogs are good at that, Dae said with a smile. That night, as everyone prepared for sleep, Hyun approached Dae privately. I need to tell you something. What you did for us, it was not just impossible surgery. It was not just compassion. He paused, choosing his words carefully. In our culture, there is a concept, life debt. When someone saves your life at great risk to themselves, you become connected to them, bound by honor and gratitude. You do not owe me anything, Dae said quickly. I know you do not think that way, Hyun said. But we do. Jiwon and I will carry this debt with honor. If you or your species ever need help, we will be there. No matter what. No matter the cost. He held out his hand in the human gesture he had learned. You gave us life. We will spend the rest of ours making sure that gift was not wasted. Dae shook his hand, feeling the strange texture of crystalline skin. Just live well, be happy. Help others when you can. That is payment enough. The next morning, a ship appeared in the sky, sleek and fast, designed for quick, quiet operations. It landed near the outpost and a Valthene male emerged. Minho was larger than the twins, his crystalline skin showing patterns of age and experience. He ran to Hyun and Jiwon, embracing them both. Through their bioluminescence, emotions passed between them. Relief, joy, grief for what they had endured, celebration that they survived. Then Minho turned to Dae. He studied the human for a long moment. You are the one who saved them. I helped, Dae said simply. He performed the impossible surgery, Hyun said. 12% success rate. He succeeded on his first attempt. Minho's expression changed to shock. That should not be possible. He made it possible, Jiwon said, because he refused to accept that we would die. Because he cared more about our lives than about statistics or odds. Minho looked at Dae with something like awe. Our people will hear of this. All people will hear of this. The human who did the impossible out of simple compassion. He bowed slightly. Thank you. You have given us back two of our brightest minds and kindest souls. They fought hard to live, Dae said. I just gave them the chance. Preparations for departure were quick. The twins gathered what few belongings they had. They said goodbye to Baram and Hanul, thanking the dogs with pets and words of gratitude. The dogs seemed to understand, their tails wagging. At the ship's ramp, Jiwon hugged Dae. It was awkward. Different species, different cultures, but sincere. We will never forget you. Never forget what you taught us. Hyun hugged him next. If you ever need anything at all, contact us. We will come. I will, Dae promised, knowing he probably never would. He was not the type to ask for help. The twins boarded the ship. Minho paused before following. The galaxy is watching humanity, trying to understand what you are. Stories like this one, they matter. They shape how millions of beings view your species. He smiled. You have given them a good story to tell. One about courage and compassion and impossible things made real. Then he was gone, the ship lifting smoothly into the sky. Dae watched it disappear into the stars, taking his patients back to their home and their lives. Baram barked once. Hanul pushed against Dae's leg. Both dogs looked up at him. Yeah, I know, Dae said, scratching their heads. Back to normal now. Just us and the ice and the quiet. But as he walked back to the outpost, he knew things would never be quite the same. He had proven something, maybe to himself most of all, that one person could make a difference. That compassion was not weakness but strength. That impossible things stayed impossible only until someone cared enough to make them possible. Months later, Dae received a message. It was from Hyun and Jiwon. They were safe working again as diplomats. But their work had changed. They were advocating for closer relationships with humanity, teaching other species about human compassion and determination, sharing the story of a lone researcher on a frozen planet who refused to let strangers die. The message included something else, a video of Valthene leaders discussing humanity, The words dying alien twins and two dogs rested in the snow, then the human did the unthinkable, had become a phrase in their language. A story told to children, a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength came not from weapons or technology, but from simple, stubborn kindness. Day read the message and smiled. Then he went back to his work, studying ice formations on a frozen planet at the edge of nowhere. He was alone again, except for two faithful dogs. But the galaxy was a little different now, a little better. Because one human had refused to walk away from two dying strangers in the